Thank you very much, folks. My name's Andrew Griffiths, ladies and gents, and I'm just going to kind of MC the panel. So thank you everyone for staying around. Was that awesome? Yeah. Captivating and amazing story. So I always feel inadequate after seeing something like that where you go, I've really got to get my life together, get out there and change the world. And that was pretty amazing. So I'd like to thank our wonderful panelists. Thank you so much for coming along. Shelley, thank you. You've come from whereabouts today? No, okay, great. So you're a regenerative grazier, and so Barega Merino is the name of your property. So Shelley is a grazier and land manager at Barega Merino, focusing on ultrafine merino genetics, wool production and land conservation. I think we've all learned a lot more about wool in the last little while. I'm sure you'll have some stuff to be able to share. Barega is named for the wind in Tasmania's northern Midlands. That's a beautiful name, isn't it? So lovely, and a lot more there, but maybe more of your background will come out as we go through. We've got Tamika. Thank you, Tamika Bannister, the founder of the Spotted Quoll brand. Thank you so much for coming on. You've come down from Launceston tonight, I believe. Thank you for making the trip down. Amazing, and you're very inspirational in what you do as well. So thank you so much. Wild at heart, ethical by nature is the motto of the Spotted Quoll studio, and I think that's just fabulous. Again, I'll keep it short and maybe you can share a bit more of your story as we go. And then of course the lovely Lalita Lowe, designer, fashion sustainability educator and author of It's Time to Rethink Your Fashion, and TEDx Talk trainee is what we'll kind of put you in there. So, and as I said, or as we said, Lalita's kind of responsible for everything that's happened tonight. So let's get started. I'd love to initially just get a few thoughts on the documentary from you ladies. Shelley, I mean, what do you take from that? It's a hard question to ask that, but as you're sitting here watching it and you're in the industry, what are your thoughts?
Oh, it's so true. We are so distant from the customer. Getting the message out about how sustainable we are, it just resonated.
The difficulty of the journey in connecting the pieces, I imagine, seems to be such a complex part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Tamika?
Very much the same. I felt Amy's journey very much resonated with my journey in so many ways. In fact, my best friend Beck, who's here tonight, she's like, oh my goodness, she's so much like you. The fact that she grew up on a farm and just her entire journey just felt very connected to my journey in a very weird way, and how difficult the journey is to be sustainable in an industry that is completely the opposite. I think is probably the key that I took from it, and I often think, why is this so hard? Why am I swimming against the tidal wave every single day? But after watching Amy's story, I think it is a tsunami that we have to swim against in our journey to be sustainable in an industry that isn't.
Is it changing?
Look, I think there's a lot of greenwashing within the industry, and I think there's a lot of talk about being sustainable. But is the industry actually moving in that space? I don't think so. No. I think it's limited. And when I see a lot of brands within Australia that say, oh, we're a sustainable brand, but we use recycled plastic, that's not sustainable. We shouldn't be making plastic to recycle it to where it is going. Because at the end of the day, it's lovely that we're recycling something that's toxic, but we shouldn't be using it in the first place. Yeah. There's natural fibres for a reason, like wool, like linen, like cotton's probably further down the road for me. There's lots of sustainable fibres that we should be using. Why are we still making things from plastic? We know the dangers in that. We know the plastic that ends up in our waterways. It's not good for us to wear plastic. It doesn't break down. Why are we still even in that space?
Okay, thank you, Tamika. What about you, Lalita? So the second or third time you've seen this doco.
Yeah.
Has anything changed for you in seeing it a few times now?
I think there's more insights, and the thing that I really got today was just how hard it is to translate that into our own actions. You know, how does that apply to us with the clothing that we have and that we buy? Firstly, because it's so hard to know where our clothes come from and to find out that information. And also, how do you navigate what to choose and what that means for your clothes? So I think that's the missing link, and that's what really stood out for me.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Like, where do you drive change from? Does change happen at the top, which is the fashion brands, or does change happen at the bottom of that, which is the consumer? And I think that's the interesting kind of question. And I think that what I take out of it, I feel that it seems that the fashion brands will adopt the change if it'll sell more garments,
Yeah.
right? But the reality is that the real meaningful change will happen from us. You know, buying and saying no, we don't want that, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking any kind of organisation. I think it's got to be driven by the customer. So, thank you. Okay, Tamika, Amy's journey in the movie is one of innovation, dedication, sustainability. From your experience, you know, what are the key elements in designing sustainable and a sustainable and ethical collection?
Like Amy said in the movie, it comes from the initial cloth in which you make the garment. Yes, obviously how you cut it, and we create a lot of pieces in our ranges that are zero waste, so we design around actually when we cut the garment having no waste, but it ultimately comes from what we're cutting it from. So for us, we've recently come back from a trip from India where we're able to trace all of our fabric right from farm to fibre to being printed to then being shipped to us to make. And cotton, unfortunately, even organic cotton, and we've been big organic cotton users in our collections in the past, since our trip to India, and understanding cotton is the biggest consumer of water, and water is the most important thing for us to save. I had a meeting with one of the big factories in India that's very sustainable. So he was educated in America, but he's back running a family factory in India. And his biggest take, for what I took from my trip from India, was if it's using water, it's not sustainable. And so cotton uses more water to grow than any other natural fibre. So linen or flax or hemp use a quarter of the water that cotton uses. So straight away we come back and implemented that in our ranges. We use less cotton, even though it's organically grown and even though it's coming through sustainable sources, it's still not a sustainable product long term. And what's happening in countries like China, who are big users of water because of their population, are now outsourcing their rice growing and their garment manufacturing to poorer countries because they don't want to use their own water. They actually don't want to use their own water. So what is that telling you? Water is the number one commodity that we can't get more of. Once our water tables are depleted, for me, we have to stop using high water usage products.
It was a fascinating, I think, that quote about denim.
Yes.
You know, that was the interesting one. The one that got me there was like, you know, one pair of jeans to wash is the equivalent of one person's drinking water for 2 years,
Yes.
1,200 litres, I think,
Right.
or 1,500 litres. You look at that, it's amazing. But it's fabulous then to see things like the ozone wash or the laser wash,
Exactly.
as long as it doesn't just push pollution or energy use or other things further up. You know, like it hides the, you know, and I guess you've got to hope that people are committed to coming up with better practices.
And I think, I used to always think if it wasn't made onshore, so if it wasn't made in Australia, then it's not sustainable and it's not ethical. After my trip to India, and I spent quite a lot of time in the factories in in, you know, how they grow it, how they do it. What I do know is it's not about where it's made, it's about what it's made from and how it's made. So you can get ethically made garments that come from overseas, as long as you understand what it is that you're buying and who it is that you're buying it from. So that was also a take-home piece of information.
Yeah, fabulous, thank you. Shelley, what about you? What are some of the biggest challenges that you encounter from running a sustainable and an ethical business? I mean, you're right at the pointy end, I guess, of growing sheep, right?
Yes.
How much more difficult is it to run that kind of business than to run the opposite of that?
I guess it depends on where your priorities are. Everyone's driven by productivity and number of units through for income, and the more you push your business, the more stock you run, well, the more compromised a lot of these issues are. And that's what a lot of growers are faced with. The other thing that's, and I think that some of it is the lack of awareness as well about what they're doing and how unsustainable their practices are. But the reality is it can be done, and we do it. We're a 100% merino operation. We totally care about our merinos, and just right through the whole life cycle on the farm. We're accredited with RWS, which is a global accreditation scheme that the industry recognises that we are sustainable and regenerative in the way we practice. And it's an accreditation scheme that has absolutely no mulesing at all. But if you look at the Australian wool clip, less than 20% of merino wool growers don't muse. So it's still quite a big issue. And there's probably a lot of it, you know, whether it's just their practices, the type of animals that they're running. They're not breeding an animal that can live and thrive without that kind of intervention. But it can be done and is being done. We don't muse at all, and we haven't done since 2005. But the peak wool body, AWI, are still talking about how to show growers how not to muse. In fact, we don't even dot the tails of our animals. So yes, but we're a minority, and we are looked on as being a bit alternative, yeah.
Are there, you hippies, are there more? Are there starting to be more farms that are following that approach?
There's the regenerative, yes, slowly. It's, there's so much pressure on agriculture. It's most people are price takers. The price of land, the cost of it all. Just look at what's happening with the Senate inquiry with the supermarkets at the moment. You know, the price gouging, how growers have to produce a product for a price, and they have no say.
It's got to change, doesn't it? It's ridiculous. Yes. Thank you. Lalita, what about you? Can you discuss the significance, I guess, of education? You're a fashion educator. You know, how important, it's obviously a bit of a, you know, open question in that how important is it to change the fashion industry's, I guess, trajectory towards more sustainable practice? I mean, education of the industry, or I guess education of us as buyers. I guess, how significant a role does education play in all of this story that we're talking about?
I think that the best thing to talk about is our own education for ourselves. Like, that's where we can start. And I think if we, the thing is to start asking questions if we're not asking them already. And to first ask yourself, why am I buying this? Why do I have it? Do I need it? You know, that's the first thing, because really at the end of the day we have so many clothes on the planet. And we probably already have many, many clothes in our wardrobes that we don't wear. It's like 10% of the clothing that we wear that from our wardrobe we wear. So if we can even, ask ourselves our own questions and educate ourselves about why we wear what we do, will we wear it again? And if I'm not wearing it, what can I do with it? Maybe I can repair it. Maybe I can repurpose it. Maybe I can resell it to somebody else. And also when you ask yourself those questions, you go, oh, I didn't wear that because it didn't fit me properly. I mean, I love the colour and I love the shape, but it just, when I put it on, I feel horrible, And you go, oh, I can take it to a dressmaker and they can maybe take in the waist, and then you love wearing it. So it may be just one tiny thing that affects why you don't wear something. I think it's just to know that it's not about buying. It's really not about buying, it's about what you have, what you love, wear what you love and buy more of those things if you need to buy them. So I think, there is a lot of education that needs to happen for the industry, and that's a whole different thing of its own. And I think, a lot of the change will happen from legislation, but that's a very slow burn. So I think for us, we have the power in our own worlds to do as much as we can and to be empowered by that knowledge.
I also wanted to, if the generational change starts to happen, I think as you get more millennials moving into positions of authority in larger organisations, I think more millennials are more driven by environmental, and social, responsibility. Same with Gen Z, at the moment, a lot of the wealth in the industry is held by a lot of old white guys, to be brutally honest, and old white guys don't like change. Sorry Neville, like not including you in there, Neville, but, that again, the change within an organisation, and also the change with shareholders, right? A lot now, millennials, Gen Zs are the ones who will inherit shares in a lot of organisations, and they'll be more vocal about what we accept and what we don't. I believe that is going to be a driver of change. One last question, because we're going to get kicked out of here, and it'll be brutal. There won't be any soft landing on nice merino wool. I'm going to ask each of you a question here. One of the themes that I think was so wonderfully illustrated in that doco was the concept of collaboration, and the extent that everyone kind of went to. Not just mother of pearl, but the growers, the yard makers, etc. I guess from each of your various perspectives, I'm really kind of interested to see what role does collaboration play for you in your kind of place in the fashion industry where you're at, and perhaps maybe even a little bit about how you collaborate with others if you feel that that's appropriate. Can I start with you, Shelley?
Yes.
It's a big question, isn't it?
It is. We are fortunate to have some of our kit sold directly to a buyer in the States, and we've met that buyer and the design, and it's just meant so much to us as growers, but here to actually meet someone where our wool goes into garments, and gives us a sense of purpose, and we're able to sort of grow and put wools together in the clip for the needs of our buyer, and that's really just fantastic for us. Otherwise, your clip, you might grow a clip and it has a broad range of micron, and in our case we're 12.5 to 14.5, 15 micron ultra fine niche, and our buyer tends to buy the sort of 15 micron end of our kit, so they're not able to buy all of it, and it's the other portion just gets sold into the general wool auction as a generic sort of commodity, and it's so destroyed. It's got RWS on it, which is sought after, but it just ticks a box for a lot of the buyers. There's nothing more engaging for them than that, and it's a very difficult place to be.
And we all know now how fine 15 microns is. Before I wouldn't know what that meant, but now it's really fine. Really fine. Thank you, Shelley. What about you, Tamika? How does collaboration look from, I guess, as a designer and maker?
I think for a sustainable fashion brand, particularly in Tasmania, to work, we have to collaborate with people within Tasmania, people outside Tasmania, and I think the only way forward for small business and for a sustainable fashion brand is to collaborate. Not only just from a financial point of view collaboration, but from an information sharing point of view. The more you talk within the space, the more people you have in your tribe, the more you learn from each other, and the more you grow. And the more they grow, and the more the industry grows, and the more the consumers grow, and it's just a positive, it's like a snowball that starts to get traction, and then it picks up along the way, and it picks up people and other brands along the way. So I think it's absolutely essential. If you're not collaborating, I don't think you're not in business, I don't think, and you're not open to change, and you're not wanting to see change. So we're all about finding new people to work with, collaborating wherever we can, just constantly.
Makes sense, right?
It makes sense. The more we share, the more you love us, the bigger we get, the more sustainability gets. It's an inherent part of the process. If you're too internalized into about what you're trying to achieve and insular, then it's a bigger battle again. So the more you give, the more you get back. That's just in life, I think.
I think it takes collaboration pioneers, to do that are able, and again, that's what we got out of that, I think. So thank you. That's lovely. Thank you, Tamika. Lalita.
I think there's two things I want to say. The first thing is watching the documentary and seeing, that we're starting at the wool and we're going through all the different processes with the wool or the cotton. So much collaboration there that usually no one knows about. All the way to the other end of fashion, which is the buyers and the magazine, people from magazines, and the influencers and the models. I mean, they're all part of it. And I think, the more awareness we have, the more everyone in that chain will make decisions to say, I want to support this, or I want to support that. I mean, you think about the really super fast fashion brands like Shein, which are the most unethical, unsustainable brand you could ever buy from. What was I going to say? Oh, the biggest part of their business almost is the influencers on TikTok, and they have a responsibility. So collaboration is so important across the board. Imagine if we had influencers who said, I decided I wasn't going to buy this today. I decided I'm not going to buy something for a year, or I'm going to repair this. There's so much. And I just want to say quickly, the other part of collaboration is last year I did my own fashion collection, which I spoke about, and I worked with Nan Bray's wool from Oaklands in the Midlands, who introduced me to Shelley, which I'm so grateful for. So that's collaboration in itself. And the fashion industry is known to be very closed and not recommending people, but even, Nan Bray is such a lovely woman, of course she's going to introduce me to Shelley, but in many areas those things don't happen, But for me, the collaboration was the biggest thing, being able to go out and meet Nan, see the sheep, know the wool, develop a relationship with her. It was all about relationships for me, and then to meet the makers in Tasmania, and then for us to problem solve together on issues that, how are we going to do this neckline? It doesn't work anymore, and for them to help me to come up with an answer for the garment, and then the end result of getting the collection together and having it already, like just all that collaboration was so important. We all worked together, and it's so fulfilling. Like that was the best part of it for me. Not actually, the end result was amazing feeling, but the whole process was so fantastic.
Thank you. Folks, we have to wrap it up. Please give Shelley